So how is it going at your end? Did yours also install?
Yes, it did.
Okay, cool. So let's open up our source folder. We opening our source folder, and then in here we'll remove this app.css. Hold the control key down, select app.css, app.test.js, select the logo.svg, report vitals, and then set up test.js. Okay, so these are the files, the ones I've selected so far. After selecting that, you press delete on your keyboard and then tell it to move it either to recycle bin. So we have this cleared out. Once those files are deleted, we have to look through our components, okay, and then see if there are imports that relates to those particular files. So I can see one of the imports here, the report vitals. I'm no more using it, so I have to remove it. And then likewise, the one added down here on the index.js file. So I'll delete that as well and save this file. So this index.js should look like this, right? Without the report vitals. Then I'll go into the app.js and then also take off the app CSS and then the logo.svg, and then also remove everything we have in the header here, leaving the app class name app, okay, for that particular div, and then just type hello world inside. Save that, and that will be all. So when I come down after removing those files and then those imports, I'll just come down here and do npm run dev. Now this run dev you see here is dependent, it's because the scripts here is set, even it's not dev, okay. Sometimes you see dev and that maps to the development server to test your React project, okay, or whatever project it is. So here it says start, so I can use this this in the dev unless I change it to dev myself. So it means I can change that to dev, and when I change it to dev, anytime I run, I have to say npm run dev. But since it starts and there's nothing wrong with it, we can just go ahead and use the start. So I'll say npm run start or npm start, okay, all will work. When you run and you see the hello world you have typed in the app component, if you see it, yeah, so it means your site is working fine, okay, everything is okay. Let me reduce the size a little bit. Okay, good. Then the next thing we want to do is to install some library here, which is the React Router DOM. So npm install React Router DOM. So we want to install this library. So you hit enter, and then install the router DOM for that. Okay, so that was fast. It's done installing. To check, you can go into the dependencies, because if you don't add -D, it would just install into the dependencies, right? So we can see the React router DOM here installed. Now we would just simply go to our source folder. That's where we'll be creating our components and stuff in. So we'll come here and create a new folder, and then this will be the assets folder, right? So in this assets folder, we want to just simply right click on it, say reveal in file explorer. Okay, that's the assets folder, reveal in file explorer, and then this is it. So you double click on it to open it up. Now minimize the VS Code project, and then the images I sent to you, you open the images, click on just one, press Ctrl A for Apple, hold the Ctrl key down, press A, it will select all the images. Just copy, or you can just simply copy the entire folder, that's folder there. Right click and say copy, and then paste in here. When you drag, it will move the folder, entire folder in there. So just right click and say copy, so the folder would be there. But then if you've downloaded, it's still in your downloads folder, fine, then you can just drag and then just rename this. We don't want a very long name, so just, it doesn't mean long names will not work, but we want to make it short, so we are renaming that whole folder to images. So I now have my images here in the assets folder, and it contains all the images I'll be using. Okay, then the next thing we want to do, we have to launch this back again, and when you expand this, you see the pictures, images in there. Okay, good. The next thing is to click on the source folder, go to the folder, and then create components folder, right? We also would want to select the source folder and create the layouts folder, right? And then also we will click on the SRC folder and then create the pages folder. So after creating this empty folders, always make sure you go and click on the source, because if you select a particular folder and then you click on new folder, that folder will be created as a child element, a child folder within the parent, the one you selected. So make sure you do it the right way, right? So in the first thing we'll do is to create our layout. Now our layout can just be named, because it's just a simple page, we will just create main layout. We'll call it main layout.jsx. So we can use the JS. I don't know if the JSS has been formatted in there. Okay, so main layout.js. Then let's create our boilerplate for that. So we have our main layout created. Now this main layout would hold the navigations that would persist, and if possible will not persist the main home banner. Okay, the other pages will use some static pages for that, images for that. So we'll maintain this, and then so make sure you have the main layout components created, and then you do this. Okay, you create a function and with its export. Then simply come to your app.js. We would use the app.js as our main root component for all the pages we are going to create. So make sure you click the beginning here, hit enter to come down, and then just simply say import, then curly brace, then at the end here you see from React router DOM, right? So when you do this, then you can start putting in the imports, the functions you want to import. So you have the create browser router, you have create elements, routes from elements, right? You have also router provider, okay, here. Then you also have the routes, or the route, just singular route, okay, if you want to use this method. So these are the different functions we are importing from the React router DOM. Then to utilize these functions, we want to first of all create a constant value, and that should be equal to the create browser router, okay? And then you assign, because it's a function, you assign a parenthesis at the end. And then in this parenthesis, you start create routes from the elements, and then that is also going to pass a function. And then we'll begin to pass the child React nodes to it, okay? So when you look at the description, it says the children, and they are React nodes that will be passed inside this. So we'll start by passing our route, okay, component, and each route component have a path prop that you can pass. So since this is going to be our root path, we are passing the path of a / in there, and then the element it has to link to is going to be this, the main layout element. So you tap on it to import it, then you do a self-closing within the curly brace. Then you can close it this way, making sure that you have the closing. It's not self-closing because you want to create child elements in it. So you just put that in there, and then you make sure you close it so you can have the closing element tag here. Then in between this, you start creating the child routes within it, okay? So you do another route, and then since every layout must have a first page within it, we want to define this as our index page, and it will be linked to another element or component which we have not yet created, okay? So to create that component, we want to go to the pages folder here, and then create our first component called home.js, right? Make sure that you also create this function in the home.js which it exports, and let's call this home. So we type home in there, make sure you save, then come here and pass that home component here, right? So make sure you type the home, press the tab key to import it, and then so these are pages import. So this part is going to be our pages or